You know, that makes me feel like playing Wind Waker for some reason. Now, The Legend of Zelda started as a game on the NES, and it was considered awesome. It was the first Zelda game and a good start to what would become an awesome series. The second game obviously was not as well liked as it changed the gameplay style to a mix of the original and side-scroller. This game was more likely than the first to have had mixed reactions. In 1991, Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past came out. And not only was it back in the gameplay style that everyone wanted to play it in, but its graphics blew our minds. And just when you didn't think it could get any better, 1998, our minds were blown again. This time though, it was a completely new experience. This was a jump to 3D. This was The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. For me, this was the first game I ever played, and it put an everlasting impression in my mind of how a game should be made. A few years later, Legend of Zelda: Majora's Mask was made, running on a similar layout of graphics and gameplay, but it was highly debatable on how it compared to Ocarina of Time. There were familiar elements, but people did not like how the story, the land, and everything about it was weird and darker. My opinion isn't really clear, but any Zelda game considered good is a Zelda game that I love to play. Finally, we are up to the GameCube. This was released in 2001, and in 2003, Legend of Zelda: Wind Waker came out. Now, this took another daring turn. They completely changed the graphic style. Rather than make it look realistic as possible, they made it look really cartoony. They added cell shading, and while many fans were angry, this game was not hated by everyone. This being 7 years later, I'm going to take a look at this classic. The first thing we are going to go over is presentation. Now let's just get this out of the way right now. This game looks awesome. Now this game did not age, simply for the fact that it is not going for the realistic look. It was going for an artsy look. Now today, not much about this game will impress you, but back then, if you were not an angry fanboy, this would look awesome. Boss fights really still show in this game's artistic style. Another cool thing when you're out at sea approaching an island is the draw distance, as it slowly fades into view. Overall, the graphics are not realistic, but again, they're not going for a realistic look. I compare this to Paper Mario. Its look is timeless, not impressive by today's standards, but for a 7-year-old game, still having decent looks. In terms of sound, the effects are appealing, and the music is awesome. This fits in very well and is nothing short of awesome. Like Ocarina, Majora's Mask, and many others, it is very memorable and definitely adds to the overall experience, with classic Zelda tunes and some new material never heard before. The presentation, though it doesn't look good as it once did, hasn't aged much. A 5.